Truly, functional medicine is a different way of looking at health. It's not a subspecialty, it's a paradigm shift. The issue is traditional medicine compartmentalizes the body into organ systems. You have a gynecologist, a psychiatrist, a gastroenterologist, nephrologist, a cardiologist. You have all these specialists that specialize in body parts. They truly mean well. They want to help you ease your symptoms and suffering. I truly believe that the vast majority of doctors go into medicine for the right reason. They want to help humanity. They want to ease suffering. But the allopathic approach doesn't work. When we compartmentalize the body, we do not identify the intricacies of how everything is interconnected. The gut-brain connection. Inflammation is the root of all illness, and whatever is inflamed is going to be throughout your whole body. Your genetics determine which disease you're going to get, but the root cause of the illness is very similar amongst whatever illness it is. There's a cause. Certainly, none of us are getting out of this world alive. We're all going to die someday, but do we want to live a healthy life up until the very end with energy, focus, vitality, the ability to do things that your heart calls you to do? That's what I want for you. And a simple way to understand this is with what I call the bucket theory. Now, I didn't make this up. I learned this early in my functional medicine training, but it's one of the foundations of how we look at health. You're given a bucket at birth, and this bucket signifies how well your body detoxifies and adapts. Buckets come in different sizes, and that may not be fair, and that is genetically determined. But the principle is that when your bucket overflows, you get a chronic illness, whatever, cancer, autoimmunity, diabetes, chronic fatigue syndrome, cardiovascular disease. That's an overflowing bucket. So what fills your bucket? It's very simple. Nutritional deficiencies, environmental toxic exposures, super high stress and trauma, and infections. So there's a lot of detective work that goes into figuring out what's filling your bucket and how much do we think each thing is contributing. But the principle is we need to get back that margin of resiliency. We need to get rid of the things that are overflowing your bucket so that you have a margin of resiliency so that the next thing that happens to you in your life doesn't make you sick again. As far as stress goes, think about it. The number of people that are diagnosed with cancer not long after their mother dies or their children leave home or some stressful event. It's that overwhelming stress that's the final thing in the bucket. It's not that caused it. They probably had a bucket that was maybe 3/4 full and sloshing around, but it was that last thing that caused it to overflow. Now, what do we have control over in that bucket? Because we can't control everything, but let's look at what we have control over. Nutritional deficiencies. We can check for those. We can eat healthy foods. We can avoid inflammatory foods. So we do have control over what we eat, and that's super important. Infections, we don't have control over these necessarily getting infections, but we certainly can evaluate for these stealth infections, which lead to inflammation, which are bucket fillers, and then we can evaluate and treat for that. The primary treatment is actually immune system support because you have a God-given immune system that fights viruses, bacteria, and cancer. So let's support the immune system, and then that can help get rid of the chronic infections. The environmental toxic exposures is huge because in our world today, we're exposed to so many. These can be divided into several categories. One is chemical toxicants, everything that man thought would make our lives easier in the Industrial Revolution, combustion engines, plastics, petroleum products, things like that did make our lives easier, but our bodies were not made to handle these off-gassing and these chemicals that we're absorbing. In our lifetime, we accumulate these, and our body doesn't know necessarily how to get rid of them very well. So chemical toxicants is a big one. Heavy metals. What are the big heavy metals? Mercury, arsenic, cadmium, lead, and aluminum. These do nothing good for you. They just displace your minerals, and they cause inflammation, and they're major bucket fillers. Aluminum is in antiperspirants, not deodorants, but antiperspirants. It blocks the sweat glands and prevents the sweating. Aluminum is an adjuvant in vaccines. The job of the vaccine is to piss off your immune system to create an immune response, and the heavy metal aluminum does that. So those are the two big sources of aluminum. Cadmium is in combustion engines and cigarette smoke. Arsenic is in the soil, and it's in certain pesticides. Rice happens to be very naturally good at accumulating arsenic. So it's not that rice is toxic. If there's arsenic in the soil, for some reason, rice concentrates it. Lead-based paints, combustion engines. Number 2, lead pencils that I had when I was growing up as a kid. And then mercury. Mercury is in fish. Mercury is in your amalgams. Your silver fillings are 50% mercury. These heavy metals are contributors. 2 more environmental toxicants. One is electromagnetic radiation. This is everywhere. It's in Wi-Fi, from cell phone towers, dirty electricity, your Bluetooth devices. It is well known and documented and undeniable that electromagnetic radiation increases intracellular inflammation because it opens the calcium channels that allows calcium to accumulate inside the cells, and long-term higher calcium levels inside the cells increases this free radical called peroxynitrite, and that's very inflammatory. And our exposure to electromagnetic radiation in the last 10 years has gone up like a billionfold. It's huge. Is that the only thing? No, but it's part of it. We need to acknowledge everything. Can we get rid of it all? No, but we could maybe give ourselves a sleep sanctuary, get rid of the Wi-Fi and the dirty electricity in your bedroom. I truly believe that if we give our bodies a sanctuary for healing, like 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night in a clean environment, that we can withstand a lot of things. So that's something we have control over. We have control over our bedroom and our house, and we could take steps to decrease electromagnetic radiation. And lastly is mycotoxins. Now, mycotoxins is a chemical from the mold. The analogy I use here is the skunk versus the stench of the skunk. The skunk is a cute, furry little black and white animal. The stench of the skunk makes us sick with the smell. So mycotoxins are the stench of the skunk, and the skunk is the mold. Where do we get this from? We get it from our environment. We can breathe it in from moldy buildings. If it smells musty or you see mold, there's mold. Mycotoxins are a huge bucket filler. So if we have someone in our practice who's very ill and has chemical sensitivity to everything and has seen multiple doctors and is not getting well, we'll do a mycotoxin test. These are bucket fillers. Think of it that way. We don't have to get rid of everything. It's impossible to get rid of everything. We need to get our margin of resiliency and lower that bucket burden down enough so that the next thing that comes along doesn't make us sick. I know you can do this. Please send this to someone who needs to hear it. Please follow. Please subscribe. I want to help you be healthy.